You slept enough. You didn't do anything particularly difficult today. Nothing dramatic happened. No crisis, no conflict, just a normal day. And yet you feel drained. Not physically tired, though that might be there too, but something deeper. A heaviness that sits in your chest. A kind of tiredness that makes everything feel like it takes more effort than it should. You look around and wonder, why do I feel this way? Nothing happened. Nothing's even wrong, really. But you still feel wrung out, like you've been running on fumes for longer than you realized. Emotional exhaustion doesn't announce itself the way physical tiredness does. You don't collapse. You don't stop functioning. You just keep going. But underneath, something is wearing thin. It's not about one big thing. It's about 100 small things. The constant adjustments you make to get through the day. The energy it takes to show up in ways that feel expected. The effort of holding yourself together when you'd rather just not. Most people don't realize how much emotional energy they're spending. Because it doesn't feel dramatic. It feels normal. It feels like just getting through the day. But getting through the day costs something. And when you do it every day, without really resting, the cost accumulates. You wake up and you're already managing. Managing your mood, your tone, your reactions. You're thinking about what needs to be done, who needs what from you, how to navigate the interactions ahead without friction. And that takes energy. Quiet, invisible energy that no one sees you using. But you feel it. In the way everything starts to feel like effort. Even the small things. Even the things you used to enjoy. Because emotional energy isn't infinite. And when you spend it constantly without refilling it, you start running on empty. Not in a way anyone else notices, just in a way you feel. Part of what drains you is the labor of being emotionally available for others while keeping your own emotions quietly contained. You listen, you support, you show up. You're there when people need you. And that's not a bad thing, but it costs. Because while you're holding space for someone else's feelings, your own get pushed aside. Not on purpose. There's just no room for them in the moment. So you set them down. You tell yourself you'll come back to them later. When there's time, when things are quieter. But later never really comes. Because by the time you're alone, you're too tired to process anything. You just want to zone out. To not think. To let your mind go blank for a while. And that works in the short term. Distraction helps you survive the day. But it doesn't actually give you rest. Not the kind that reaches the emotional tiredness underneath. Because emotional exhaustion isn't just about needing a break. It's about carrying unprocessed weight. The feelings you didn't have space for, the reactions you swallowed, the tension you absorbed and never released. It sits there, quietly, building up over time, until even ordinary interactions start to feel like too much. Someone asks you a simple question and it feels like a demand. Someone needs something small, and you feel resentment rise up before you can stop it. Not because they did anything wrong, but because you're already stretched too thin. And one more thing, even a tiny thing, feels like it might break you. There's also the tiredness that comes from constant self-monitoring, from always being aware of how you're coming across, how you're being perceived. Whether you're doing enough, saying the right thing, managing other people's comfort. It's the mental energy of adjusting yourself in real time, softening your edges so you don't take up too much space, amplifying your energy so you don't seem withdrawn, moderating your emotions so you're not too much or too little. And you don't do this consciously. It's automatic. A habit learned early, a way of moving through the world that keeps things smooth. But it's exhausting, because you're never fully relaxed, never fully yourself. You're always slightly performing, even in spaces that should feel safe. And over time, that performance becomes the default. You forget what it feels like to just be, without the adjustments, without the monitoring, without the constant internal calculation of how you're being received. So even when you're alone, the tiredness doesn't leave. Because you've been holding tension for so long, your body doesn't remember how to let it go. One of the most confusing parts of emotional exhaustion is that rest doesn't always fix it. You can sleep for hours and wake up still feeling heavy. You can take a day off and still feel like you're carrying something. Because what you need isn't just physical rest. It's an emotional release. Space to actually feel what you've been postponing. Permission to stop holding it together for a minute. But most people don't give themselves that. They rest by distracting, by scrolling, by watching something, by keeping their mind occupied. They don't have to drop into the quiet space where the unprocessed feelings live. And that's understandable because dropping into that space can feel overwhelming, especially when you've been avoiding it for a while, so the tiredness persists. Not because you're not resting, but because the kind of rest you're getting doesn't touch the emotional layer underneath. Your body recovers, but your nervous system stays activated, still braced, still ready to manage the next thing, still holding the emotional tension you never fully released. And that's what emotional exhaustion really is. Not just tiredness, but the weight of everything you've been carrying without putting it down. The worry you didn't voice, the frustration you swallowed, the sadness you pushed aside because there wasn't time for it, the anger you turned inward because expressing it felt too risky. All of it accumulates, quietly, until you wake up one day and realize you've been tired for months, maybe longer, and nothing's even wrong. Not obviously, not in a way you can point to, but you're exhausted anyway. If you feel this way, it doesn't mean you're weak. It doesn't mean you're failing at life. It doesn't mean something is broken in you. It means you've been carrying more than you realized. And you've been doing it without much support, without much acknowledgement, without giving yourself credit for how much emotional effort it actually takes to get through most days. Emotional tiredness isn't laziness. It's not something to push through or ignore. It's a signal, a quiet message from your body that you've been running on reserves for too long. And recognizing that really seeing it doesn't solve it. But it does shift something. It changes the way you hold the tiredness. Less like a failure, more like information. Your body isn't betraying you. It's trying to tell you something. And maybe, just maybe, it's time to listen.